I'm fucking tired. Ooh.
What is going on, fellow streamers? Welcome in to another episode of StreamerSZN, the exclusive streaming platform, TV and movie podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network, and the very first episode on YouTube. What's up, YouTube? How you doing? Keep it moving. Let's get this thing cooking on the tubes. The Cowabunga boys are back. Let's do this. It's KB and Dylan coming at you from Underground Studios. We got a lot to dive into this episode. We're obviously going to kick things off when we get into the meat and potatoes of it with our Moon Knight episode 4 breakdown. For everybody who's watching on YouTube for the first time, go back and listen to all the other breakdowns we did and catch up. But from here on out, all of our episodes will also be available on YouTube, so subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below your thoughts on Moon Knight, all that good stuff. We want to get the conversation flowing on the tube, but we're going to have our Moon Knight episode 4 breakdown. Going to get into some fun little business topic with a certain streaming platform. I also have a fun streaming platform story to dive into. And then, of course, we'll get into everybody's favorite topic, the streaming platform multiverse news and notes. But before we get started, follow us on the socials at StreamerSZN. It's right up at the top above Dylan's head, right there in the corner. All you got to do is type that in on the socials, Twitter, Instagram. Follow Dylan on Twitter at Dylan Mazzola. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed. Just because we're on YouTube doesn't mean the podcast feed goes away. That means just as much if you subscribe over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. And do what, Dylan?
Oh! No, I'm kidding. I figured I'd say the most random thing. No, he's trying to say leave 5-star reviews and let us know. Like, obviously, we have standards. Leave 5-star reviews, and also I always say at the end as well. Let us know what you want to watch, and also subscribe.
Which we did get a recommendation of a show to watch, which we'll bring up later on in the show. And of course, like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Underground Sports Philadelphia on YouTube. Every podcast on our network is available on that one YouTube channel. You get StreamerSZN, Underground Sports Philadelphia, Outside the Box, Top Bins, Get in the Hole, all that good stuff on our YouTube channel.
Whatever you want, it's there.
And every Thursday, should be around 10 a.m., you will have StreamerSZN available to watch for your viewing pleasure with your eyeballs, and check out mine and Dylan's beautiful beards. But before we get into Moon Knight, big shout out to our sponsors who make this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game, and the best blue light glasses on the planet. I wear mine all the time. I was wearing them at 4 a.m. when I was getting ready to just knock when I was watching this episode of Moon Knight scared witless, because this episode was banana land scary. But Tomahawk Shades was protecting my eyes from the creepy crawlies, and they can do the same for you. TomahawkShades.com, and use our code USP to get 25% off your entire order from our pals over at Tomahawk Shades. Kenwood Beer, Dylan's beverage of choice when he's watching Moon Knight and all of his favorite streaming platform shows and movies.
Yes, sir.
You guys can go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see who has Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so, and of course, please drink responsibly. And our new pals over at Bino Board. Guys, it's the best thing coming to your man cave or your she shed. Best thing to have out ready to rock and roll when friends are over, in between watching
fast, Kyle. No,
in between watching shows and movies. You guys can go to binoboard.com. That's BINHOBOARD.com, and use our code BINHOUSP, BINHOUSP, for 10% off your entire order at binoboard.com. Dylan, let's get right into it. They say it has been the trend since Disney Plus has been rolling out the Marvel shows, and episode 4 of Moon Knight did not disappoint.
Someone at the MCU Disney headquarters really loves number 4.
Or they're just big golf fans.
Yeah, that's true, too. Something with number 4, it's Kyle just said it. Like, all the Marvel shows that we've watched, and I wouldn't be surprised if some Disney shows already, like newer ones, just seem to all have a poppin', a bussin', a crazy 4. I don't know. Like, I don't know why. I mean, I guess I know why for added flair, but it's interesting because all the shows have been different lengths in terms of like episode size. Like some of the other shows, we were cheated out. Kyle and I complained about that. Like you only got 30-minute episode with like 8-minute credit, whereas Moon Knight we're steady pulling 45-ish minutes episodes.
Yeah, 45 to 50 minutes so far, which has been fantastic.
It's good length, and it's just kind of like it makes sense, but it's just crazy that every single series, episode 4, has just been.
Yeah, I mean, think back. Episode 4, WandaVision, was when she just lost her mind and blasted Monica Rambeau out of the Hex. Yeah. Episode 4 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm pretty sure, was the Dora Milaje showing up. Episode 4 of Loki was Banana Land. Just crazy. Episode 4 of What If was the Doctor Strange episode. And now episode 4 of Moon Knight just flipped our heads on a spiral.
Was episode 4 in Hawkeye when we saw...
Oh, yeah, and episode 4 of Hawkeye was when we saw Yelena.
Yeah, so...
Crazy. It's episode 4.
Episode 4 of Moon Knight. Spoilers.
Now, before we get into just the meat of this episode, after this episode finished, were you thinking, damn, we only have 2 more episodes left of this? It feels like, and I would just like wish casting. I wish we had like 4 more episodes because this show has been unbelievable, just like edge of your sheet.
Yeah.
Edge of your sheet.
Well,
if you're watching in bed, which I was this morning, I was on the edge of my sheets. The edge of your seat, just watching every single episode because it brings you into the world that you're watching this show in, which I think the makings of a good show, they're able to bring you into that world and feel like you're there, and that's exactly what Moon Knight has done so far through 4 episodes.
Yeah, no, and it definitely helps. Everything you said is also very true, and it helps when you go out and get a man who's very talented in Oscar Isaacs to be your lead actor and the main protagonist / antagonist, I guess, if you want to. He's kind of, and then you also get some great secondary acting, and Ethan Hawke, he's no slouch. He's done a lot. And
he's been great in this show.
That's what I'm saying. So the contrast of him and like those 2 actors has really helped carrying the show. I don't know his wife's actor off the top of my head, but she's doing a fine job as well. And then the voice acting for Khonshu is funny because it's a little bit humorous, but he's also a dick, and it's played very well. I mean, like, so it's
May Kalamawi is Layla.
Thank you. And then what's his face? Abraham. Who's Khonshu again?
F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's played very well. And I think it also helps the fact that Moon Knight's not really your atypical superhero. I wouldn't even call him a superhero. I would just call him a dude.
He's a vigilante.
Yeah, exactly. So
because back in the day when the comics came out, for people that don't know, like Moon Knight was essentially Marvel's response to Batman. Like that's what they were trying to capitalize on and have their own kind of like by the night vigilante, and that's what Moon Knight came to be, and both of them are badass characters.
They took the night thing too literally in the early adaptations, and all he did was hunt werewolves. It wasn't even Batman. Kyle was right. He is this version of Batman, but he wasn't even Batman for a little bit. He was just a dude decked out in silver that kills people that are werewolves. So,
which we'll probably see this Halloween with Werewolf by Night, which I'm sure very excited
They've already teased with the QR codes.
Yes.
Werewolf several times. Kind of Easter eggs, so yes, Kyle's right with that, but just crazy episode.
Yeah, this episode was absolutely nuts. It was titled The Tomb. Perfect title for this episode as Stephen Grant and Layla find a deserted campsite at the location of Amit's tomb, which, Dylan, I don't know about you, because knowing like our just knowledge of history and everything, I was a little perplexed at the beginning of this episode when Layla threw that flare into open ammunition and she did not get hit by anything.
Yes. Okay. You can like, Kyle brought up a great point, people. You can like a show and still pick apart things to not like. And that was...
I was like, that did not go boom like it should have.
That's not even knowledge of history. It's just knowledge of me, like, and you, like, watching shows with firearms. And Kyle knows that I have firearms in my life, so I understand, like, how they work. And like Kyle said,
we've all been to the fireworks on the 4th of July.
Not even fireworks. that is a 50 cal mounted machine gun, sometimes referred to as a technical. People in the Middle East use them all the time, as well as our Americans use them in Humvees and helicopters. So obviously, Kyle and the listeners, if you have a turret which is used to shoot lots of bullets downrange, it was a crate full of Kyle, what, probably like 1,000 rounds, 500?
At least.
Big
tons and tons of open ammunition.
My point is, A, it should have blown up longer, and B, like the likelihood of her and or Oscar Isaacs being hit by a stray bullet is very high.
Yeah. That was like, oh, were they called just fake bullets
that
or whatever?
Scene, I'm glad you brought that up.
I knew that was going to drive you nuts.
Well, also the whole logic of on a turret, my man sees Layla and fires like 2 shots. That thing is
he half pressed the button.
That thing is meant to put rounds down range. That's the whole. Literally, our men and women overseas have that on the Humvees to protect them.
Oh, that was great. I was watching it at 3 a.m. this morning, and I watched it, and like I didn't make anything of it. And then I like thought back, and I was like, that should have exploded more.
It should have exploded, and that dude was very cognizant and very cheap in terms of like he was like, well, these 50 cal bullets cost like $1 a piece, so I'm only gonna shoot 2.
Yeah. So they survive that, and then they end up going to this abandoned campsite. They're talking, and Steven tells Layla the truth, quote unquote, about why Mark has been so standoffish and kind of avoiding her because he doesn't want Khonshu to get a hold of her. And then they were kind of
Mr. Still Your Girl.
Yeah, Mr. Still Your Girl in the same body. Well, she went for it first, and then he started to tell the truth, and then was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go for it." And that was one of the most awkward kiss scenes.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. I feel like it was meant to be that way, but you could see it. It was very awkward during that scene, and then the best part of it is Mark takes the body over and punches himself in the face again.
That was the best part. It's definitely awkward. I think it would have been a little less awkward had he kissed her initially. But that does kind of show Steven's kind-hearted nature. Like, he literally, potentially almost passed up the opportunity to kiss, presumably the only girl who's ever liked him, to get a kiss to tell the truth in favor of getting a kiss, which is commendable. But it's like, bro, you need to know when to shut up. But I'm glad he did that, because that does play a dynamic later in the episode. But yeah, getting punched in the face was probably my favorite part of the episode. Punched in the face by himself. I also want to know what Jake is doing this whole time when he's locked. Is he like locked in the back of the brain?
I see what you did there. Jake Lockley.
Hey.
Ayo. So then they end up going into Amit's tomb, which, come to find out.
Did you think you were... I was waiting for Brendan Fraser to pop up.
There were a lot of like correlations to the Mummy and Indiana Jones in this episode, which was great.
What's that annoying guy's name? Benny. Oh, Donald looks like I have all the horses. If you've seen the Mummy, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Shout out Brendan Fraser, who I would love to have on this podcast. Shout out to my sister and my dad, because my sister claims that 90s Brendan Fraser is her celebrity doppelganger, and she will not be taking any questions at this time. She's tweeted that out, and it is eerily similar to how much they look alike. So we find out that the maze of Amit's tomb is in the shape of the Eye of Horus, which is also very interesting. You kind of get a little... I don't know if it's a valid history lesson or not, but the way they broke down Horus's eye to be like the sixth senses was really, really cool to me, and very fascinating with how they broke that down. Yeah. Did you kind of question that a little bit though? Because it was like, it wasn't like they traveled around this tomb full blown to be like, oh wow, like we're in a maze. Like,
yeah,
that felt like they had done it, and that portion got cut in production or something like that.
Cut. Or they just thought it sounded like cooler than it did, because they basically just walked down a hole, and then you were like, "We're in a maze," and I'm like, "No, you came over there."
Yeah. I did like the breakdown of like all of the six senses though being part of Horus's eye. I thought that was really cool. But it felt like that portion of like the whole like how did we get here was in the episode, and they shot that, but then production wise they just cut it, and it was like, oh look, we're in a maze. Which
That's a good
I
point though,
thought.
because they might cut a lot. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh
I was
no, go
gonna
ahead.
say they might cut a lot of things out because unfortunately the actor in real life passed away.
Hmm.
So I feel like he got most of his screen time probably taken away because I feel like on IMDb he was credited initially for more than one episode, and we've only
Yeah.
seen him one time in 4 episodes.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
felt
mean?
like he was gonna be part of this like expedition almost, and then they had to make some cuts and figure some
It
things
looked
out.
like initially when we throw it back for a split second, when he's talking to Ethan Hawke's character, it looked like body language wise he was going to side with him.
Hmm.
Or like, you know what I mean, wanted to hear him out. But I don't know if that was going to happen a different way. But I digress. Kyle's right. There was not a maze. It's like me opening my door and being like, Kyle, this is a maze. I'm lost.
What was cool though was we walk into kind of like the, I guess you could call it like the embalmment room, and there was fresh blood on the table. And when you're watching that at like 3:20 in the morning, dark room in your bedroom, and you see that, you kind of like take a mini step back away from your computer screen because you know something's coming.
Yes.
What did you make of these undead zombies and
Dude,
everything? I thought for Marvel it was really friggin' cool. Like that
I
aspect of this, I've been waiting for like that undead, mummified
I love
Egyptian
it.
kind of like side horror,
Yeah.
and for a split second I was like, wow, this is in a Marvel property, like, and I wasn't expecting it, but I thought it was a very fun uh addition to a show where, you know, we've seen now all the Netflix Marvel properties come over, and Disney kind of going through this like censorship thing in terms of, you know, allowing more violent content on their platform. I thought it was really cool. The jump scares were great. Layla getting pulled back into, you know, that cave crevice was awesome. You see the ripped off hand afterwards, and you see the bones just trying to stab her. I thought it was really cool to have that included for a Marvel property, and I hope we get more of that in the future when it pertains to kind of like the horror side of Marvel.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was once again, it felt like I was watching The Mummy, dude. Like, tell me that it's not eerily similar to the vibes in which you, as a young kid, when you watch The Mummy for the first time, that's what you felt, you know? Like when the mummy comes alive initially and starts taking people's body parts, which is also what we saw in this.
Yes.
So it's the same vibes. And as soon as, like what Kyle said, as soon as you see that blood and you see like the embalming chamber pots, whatever they're called, I forget the Egyptian term for them.
Mm-hmm.
But like you see that and you're like, oh, well, someone's gonna die on camera, like grossly. And
Yeah.
I was right. Also, just want to say, speaking of dying, we'll get to that later. But Dylan predicted that before the show started, and I
Okay.
did say it wouldn't be the last episode either.
Yeah. You did have that in the initial season prediction show.
I'm just saying that's I'm doing pretty good on predicting the shows.
So we get, you know, Harrow's crew rolling up and everything, and you know they end up finding an ancient tomb in the middle portion of the pyramid that they're in, and plot twist.
Not
Like,
just
I
any.
stuttered there because I was blown away when they did this, because me being the ancient Egyptian history nerd that I am, when they knock this one out of the park, I was like, let's go MCU. Well done. Bravo. Tip my cap to you. Let's go. The tomb of Alexander the Great is now MCU canon. And for the people at home that may not know too much about Alexander the Great, he's from Greece, but he had this fascination and just kind of like over the top like love for Egypt.
Yeah.
And it was one of the places where he spent a lot of time, so he kind of like adopted Egyptian culture and adopted Egypt as his own. And he accomplished so many things in his lifetime by the time he was 30. It makes me feel like an unbelievable failure when you look back at it. But I love this aspect of including him in this show, because it almost shows that Alexander the Great, in order for him to accomplish all of these things by the time he was 30, there's no way a normal human could have done that. So he needed that extra oomph, that extra emphasis on godlike powers.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
come to find out, that is the, you know, what are they calling them? The the Avatar.
Yeah, I was gonna
for Amit,
yeah, I was gonna
which
yeah.
chef's kiss.
I was gonna say essentially the same thing as Kyle, so I don't have to repeat ourselves.
As a history nerd like you are, and I'm sure.
No,
did Tyler watch this too?
He has not watched it.
Okay, I can't wait for him to shit his pants.
I'm sure when he watches it, he'll get a text. Usually, when history stuff, I get like an OMG in all caps.
Oh, it's the best.
No, it was not expecting that. That was interesting. So we learned that Alexander the Great he's dead. Was a demigod of sorts, essentially. If you want to throw it to Greek terms, no, but it's awesome. It's a cool little Easter egg tied into real history, tying into like, well, this man was superhuman in real life, so actually he was superhuman, and it's cool because Oscar Isaacs is also unfortunately tied to this because the newer X-Men were like bleh. But there are some X-Men movies and comics that hint and suggest that people of power, like celebrities and such, like leaders across time, were mutants. So kind of goes into that whole overarching thing, like, Alexander was not a mutant, but he was an avatar.
Which is so cool. Yeah. Such awesome justification by the MCU there. Papa Feige, you do it again, brother. Well done.
Yeah.
I loved that aspect, and again, for the people at home, if you've watched Yu-Gi-Oh, Alexander the Great is also in Yu-Gi-Oh, so like
I knew that was going to come up.
Any like ancient Egypt thing that involves Alexander the Great, they're doing a good job of like portraying actual history. So if you've watched Yu-Gi-Oh, you kind of had a hint that like that was the way that they were going in terms of like, oh, this dude had like godly powers. Like that's awesome. And the way they hid the statue for Amit in Alexander the Great, fantastic, down his throat because his mouth was his power. He was a fantastic speaker, and boom. Did you think for a split second, because I certainly did, that he was going to come back to life and bite that hand?
Because it overemphasizes the jaw and the mouth being like open, and it kind of like emphasizes his hands inside the dead man's mouth. Also, though, so yeah, I agree. From a history standpoint, it was like this is the Alexander the Great's tomb, his body. So seeing someone just go, I'm like, like no. Like to quote another history figure, belongs in the museum.
Which they did say.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked. Steven said, "Oh, this belongs in a museum."
Yeah.
Which I thought was fantastic. But yeah, and there was a number of things in there which I have a feeling Moon Knight is going to continue to use that golden axe that was in the tomb. I feel like that's going to be a weapon of choice down the line. And then, the more we kind of dive into it, we didn't even start off with them putting Khonshu in the kind of like cubby hole that a ton of gods were in.
He's in timeout.
Which, to me, with the amount of gods that were like kind of banished away like that tells me something is up with the Ennead, and they've kind of been a little corrupt if they're pushing away that many gods. And it kind of like sparked something in my brain when you kick it back to episode 3. Maybe that's the reason we only saw 5 of them and 4 seats were empty.
That is exactly what I was thinking, and also I think that out of the 5 we saw, it's not improbable to deduce that not all of them, maybe 2 or 1 or 3, however many, are also in cahoots or know of Arthur's plan and do not disagree because they feel releasing Amet into the world is justice, or all the yada yada, which makes sense because how else could all these gods have been thrown away, lock the key mentality, and no one has caught wind or objected kind of thing.
Right. And it's one of those things where there were some major key players of the Ennead missing from the 9 that are supposed to be there, so something's a little corrupt with the Ennead, if you ask me and Dylan. But we have Harrow's whole crew pulls up into the tomb, and Arthur Harrow shoots Moon Knight twice.
Dude, that one guy got axed. A
He got
question.
murked. That was also very cool to see from a Disney Plus originally produced Marvel show. That was awesome. Then Ethan Hawke's character Arthur Harrow shoots Moon Knight twice in the chest, and he falls into kind of like a puddle of water almost. But then when we switch the perspectives, which we saw a lot of that in this episode, he's like deep. Like he looked like the baby on the Nirvana album cover. He was deep in that pool of water, and then we kind of and then were you as confused as I was when we kicked to this next portion of this episode, because we open up on a bootleg Indiana Jones video, and I was like,
yeah, I was cringing.
Did they post the wrong video? Like, did they not edit this? I was so confused. But then you continue watching, and all of a sudden, this bootleg Indiana Jones, his name is Dr. Stephen Grant, and he's on the hunt for the Aztec moon god, which we saw kind of that little like bust of that god's face, and it was split like phases of the moon, like we see in the credits of Oscar Isaac's face as well, which I thought was really cool. And then we cut to a mental hospital, and we run through every single thing we have seen in Moon Knight so far through 4 episodes. Yes. In this mental hospital, the guy calling bingo, that's Crawley, who is kind of the human statue that we see in the circle. We see the cupcake cart pushing around like we saw the cupcake truck. We see the scarab plush with Donna. We see
Donna is literally another mental patient. See the, I forget. Whatever the one police officers. No,
we saw both of them. Yeah,
yeah, they're both
Kennedy and Fitzgerald.
But it's ironic, and I guess it fits the escapades. If you want to believe it's not real, like if he actually is mentally institutionalized. So all of Arthur's, I don't want to say henchmen, but like cult followers.
Yeah, his followers.
Majority of them that you see are the hospital workers or the institution nurses, and everyone else is patients, or like Kyle's saying, like there's like pictures on the walls, or like physical objects.
Homegirl drew the hummingbird with Khonshu's head.
Yeah,
which the hummingbird we saw when we were at Harrow's like mini little paradise thing was on the TV. There's postcards on the wall that Layla's hanging up. Just a number of Easter eggs throughout of just different moments in time that we've seen through the first 4 episodes, which was so cool, so well done. And obviously the entire
Moon Knight action figure.
The Moon Knight action figure was, can we get that please? Like that was so cool. And then obviously the walls being white to represent, the moon god. I tweeted out episode 4 no context spoilers this morning after I finished watching the episode. I want to see if you get a nice laugh out of these things that I included. I put Alexander the Great from Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of like touching the walls and everything. I put the zombies from Scooby-Doo Zombie Island.
Oh, I love that movie.
I put the single album cover for White Walls by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis featuring Schoolboy Q. And then the last one I will mention when we get to it, but Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Hippo.
So we go through this entire thing, then we see Ethan Hawke's character kind of as like the head of this mental institution. And I don't know if you noticed the desk too, Dylan. There were way too many sharp objects on his desk to be in a mental institution.
Yeah, well, it's a very ineffective mental institution, because presumably Oscar Isaac's character, if he was in a mental institution this whole entire time, nothing was real, right? His character would clearly have a history of violent outbreaks, and they talk about that. So why is he not tied up or seduced? Seduced, Jesus Christ, seduced. Yeah, he was not seduced. No, but like sedated.
Well, he was heavily drugged. That's why he was kind of like slow with his words and stuff. My point is,
if he was going to be interviewing someone, you would not have it one-on-one alone if the patient was that dangerous. When I worked this one job a while ago when I was doing the tech thing, and I had to install like just routers in a mental hospital or the in a hospital, but rather the wing of that hospital, the floor, because it was floors, was for people who had mental illness, and it was mostly like older people. So long story short, there's like signs you can't leave objects out, like Kyle just said. And the reason is because the delivery person, like the week prior, got stabbed by a pair of scissors. They had a pair of scissors in their utility belt, and someone who was not on medication and obviously was having a manic outbreak grabbed the pair of scissors, screamed, and then stabbed the man in the leg. And here I am holding screwdrivers, and I'm like, oh, dear Lord.
That's hilarious. And then we see Mark kind of comes to his senses when he can see through the reflection. He sees Harrow's shoes that he's familiar with, seeing from everything we've seen before. He bursts out of there. We see the room just kind of tilting and swaying now. And then there's a bunch of these tombs just in all these different rooms, which I think is very fascinating. And we'll get to what that could possibly mean later on. But then, boom, there's Steven in one of those tombs. And I thought it was really cool that they actually hugged and they weren't like mad at each other. It was like, okay, we need each other to get out of here. And then they pass by another room with a shaking tomb that they just kind of walk by. But Jake Lockley's coming. And it's got to be next week. Jake Lockley's going to come through, in my opinion.
Or is he going to be the very last thing we see in episode 6? Is it going to be a complete, like cliffhanger? Like one of them's talking, and then they do that thing where their eyes roll back, and it's like, who are you? You know what I mean? Yeah, like, we'll see. We only have 2 episodes left. So.
But you and I both kind of agreed, like, that tomb has to be Jake Lockley. There's been too many inferences of him.
It has to be if they're doing any kind of his personas, because with the MCU version of Moon Knight, they are doing that the base Moon Knight is a personality of Mark. Like Mark and Moon Knight are one and the same. Maybe it changes a little bit. Same thing, Steven, Mr. Knight. So presumably, Jake Lockley will probably have his own version of Moon Knight if he gets the armor or suit. As
which there was something I saw swirling around social media this week asking about what suit everyone thinks Jake Lockley is going to wear. I'm going to ask you this now because I think it's privy to everything. So in the comics, there's a number of suits that Jake Lockley has. There's Western Moon Knight, where he has a cowboy hat.
I would like that.
There's Ultimate Moon Knight, which is just a black. It's like kind of like inverse Moon Knight, where like he's got a black suit and then the moon details are all white instead of reverse. And then there's classic black and white Moon Knight. That's more of a classic take, even more so than what we've seen Mark in.
I think he'll wear the classic one, or I think he'll wear like something armored, like militaristic. Like
give me the cowboy. I want to be a cowboy, baby.
I think they'll do the cowboy, but at the same time, I don't think they do the cowboy because they kind of already have something that's a little silly in essence with like the fact that the one's wearing a suit.
Mm-hmm. It would be cool to get Ultimate Moon Knight as well.
It would be pretty cool.
Since we're potentially getting Ultimate Iron Man and Multiverse Madness. But then, you know, we go through this whole ordeal in the mental hospital. They're trying to get out, and then the door, big old figure approaches, and we are greeted by
Hippo.
Big old Hippo. Hi. Tawara, and we get one of the funniest reactions from Steven and Mark where they just lose their minds screaming bloody murder. And we're gonna talk about Tawara here, who in ancient Egyptian religion, Tawara is the protective ancient Egyptian goddess of childbirth and fertility. The name Tawara means she who is great or simply great one, a common address to dangerous deities. The deity is typically depicted as a bipedal female hippopotamus with feline attributes, but also has a ton of just like human female features, which Disney Plus did a fantastic job covering up portions of that because in drawings and everything, Tuaret's breasts are just out in the open. Hashtag free the nip. She commonly bears epithets Lady of Heaven, Mistress of the Horizon, She Who Removes Water, Mistress of Pure Water, and Lady of the Birth House. So she's like big time in just like being born and all of that. And I think her coming through where like it's not necessarily in terms of fertility, but I think her being the first god post Khonshu that we see.
Maybe she wants a new avatar.
Well, I think she's coming through. This is my personal take on it. I think she's one of the locked away gods from the Ennead. And I think that where they are in that mental hospital, because she's the Lady of Heaven, I think she's locked away. And a lot of people that I've seen online are kind of equating this mental hospital portion, like this setting, is like the equivalent to the ancestral plane in Black Panther, where it's like, oh, you're kind of like in this limbo period of figuring out if you're dead or you're not, and now they're trying to escape being dead. But this is like just a one particular take on the MCU's version of hell, because Arthur Harrow says you can't ascend into heaven until you reach the depths of hell first, and a lot of people are thinking they've got to escape from this hell that they're in and work together to escape it, you know, that being the altars of Steve and Mark and potentially Jake. And that's also where these Egyptian gods who have been kind of banished away are being pushed to, is kind of in this weird limbo state that they're not dead per se, but they're in that middle portion.
I guess we'll have to see. I mean, there's quite a few reasons why he's seeing a giant hippo lady. It could be he is dead, and like Kyle is saying, it's along those lines, like he's not dead yet, or he is dead, and this is him transitioning, or maybe he is dying, and this is what, like maybe this is immediately after he was shot, and this is his brain, because he's messed up, this is his brain thinking. Like for all we know, maybe he gets revived somehow, and he wakes up in that pool of water underground, which would be terrifying. But who knows? You know what I mean? We're only going to know when we watch episode 5. All we know is that presumably Mark, Steven, Jake, we haven't even seen yet. Sorry, bud. You are dead or dying, and we are going to see how his character gets revived because there's no Khonshu. And also, like I alluded to earlier, yes, I was correct about him dying. And him dying not at the end of the show.
And
but
I think
he get revived because that would further indicate his ability to be revived, but there's no Khonshu, so a little bit of a hiccup in that plan, but I think what got to see it through.
I think it's key that you said dying, because I don't think he's dead. I think he's in the midst of dying, but once they kind of like how, you know, T'Challa was in the ancestral plane in Black Panther and, you know, worked his way out after, you know, talking with his father and everything. I think, you know, they're going to work together and kind of figure out how to live symbiotically, them being, you know, Mark, Steven, and eventually Jake, that we assume is going to show up in these final 2 episodes, and also help save these gods that have been kind of pushed to the side and banished away. And who knows, that, you know, another thing that just popped in my head now, that tomb that was shaking around, that could also be Khonshu. Because we've seen these tombs around, and we see, you know, now we see Tuaret walking around. I think the gods that are banished away, and now Steven and Mark and potentially Jake, are going to all have to kind of team up and work together to escape this, you know, hellscape that they're in, and try to take Harrow down, and, you know, potentially Amit becoming Harrow's next avatar, or Harrow becoming Amit's next avatar and everything. They did not lie when they said episode 4 was going to alter everything that we have known about this show so far. And I'm so excited for where, like, Moon Knight's going to go for these final 2 episodes. It is one of those things that we said at the top of the show that I wish that there was like 4 or 5 more episodes on top of the 2 that we have left, because this show has been so well done and just leaves you like, it's been a while, I think, because you and I, we enjoyed Hawkeye, but it wasn't one of those like enticing shows. You know,
Hawkeye was just kind of the equivalent of that, like, mid-tier okay action film you throw on when it's on cable or on TV. You watch it, you don't not watch it, and then you just, you know what I mean? You're like, yeah.
Right. Like, it's going to have things that come back later on, obviously with Kingpin, Haley Steinfeld, and everything, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like edge of your seat. And we think the same way about What If, like, because it was so new on a take of the MCU that we didn't know where it was going to go until, you know, those final couple episodes where it was like, okay, wow, like, all of these things are blending together.
Yeah. And every What If is not as exciting as the next.
Right.
They don't, technically, they all link, but they all don't really, like, some of them loosely link to each other. So it's just, you know, you're watching some of them and you're like, and you watch other ones and you're like, holy shit, this is electric.
Yeah, it was like story building. And I think Moon Knight is the first show since Loki that has really kept you and I like edge of our seat, wanting more, asking a ton of questions, like trying to figure out what's going to happen next, and just like very like on edge, like holy shit, like what are we going to see next? And I think WandaVision did that for us. I think Loki did it for us, and now I think Moon Knight's doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, they're engaging the audience. And it's also no secret that the three shows you just talked about, they're more interesting superhero characters. I'm not knocking. If you like Bucky, or if you like Falcon, or if you like Hawkeye or Kate Bishop, I'm not knocking you, but think about it. Seriously, think. Two characters that shoot bows and arrows, two guys who have sometimes super strength, sometimes not, throw a shield, have wings.
And we all know, not to cut you off too, but we all know Falcon and Winter Soldier had a lot of rewrites and a lot of reshoots that kind of altered the show,
but
which we
nonetheless, the heroes stay the same. But we go to characters like Wanda, who have suffered immensely, and she has literal magic powers. Flash it over to Loki. Wow, same thing. Magic suffers. Noticing a trend: if you have magic in MCU, you're screwed. Moon Knight, I wouldn't call it, I mean, I guess technically, depending on how you look at it, it's magic or it's worship or both, because he has literal powers from an Egyptian god. And all those three characters suffer immensely, and they're all not heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Wanda's not a superhero.
Right. She's an Avenger, but she also has some baggage.
I'm pretty sure she's about to be the bad girl, the bad woman in the Doctor Strange movie.
Yes.
If not going to possibly
until
do bad.
Things get out of hand.
Yes, then she'll help out. But my point is, like, those shows were more interesting, and it's not by design. It's because they're more interesting, like, storytelling. Like, you look at it from a book or a comic book standpoint. And I think that's not alarming. I guess that's exciting going forward, because maybe the MCU and other properties, maybe DC for HBO Max, will take liberties and start expanding and doing like the oddball characters, because if they cast right and direct right, it creates great cinema.
Which I think we saw on HBO Max with Peacemaker, which both you and I absolutely loved.
Exactly. That's a great example as well. Peacemaker's not like a... Don't ask me. If you ask the average person who Peacemaker was 10 years ago, they'd be like, is that like a drink? Is this a food?
Right. Is that a branch of the Peace Corps?
Yeah. Like, what?
Is that a badge you get in the Peace Corps?
Is that like a Green Lantern?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this episode for a number of reasons. I think you did as well.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get into our rating score here. I'm gonna pull everything up from the old Rotten Tomatoes.
Would you like me to do my usual? If you're listening for the first time, this would be a hell of a time to listen for the first time. But I usually go first with these, and Kyle has me guess because he's cruel, and I get close sometimes.
Yes, you do.
But I will say for I'll guess first, then I'll give mine. So in terms of 1 out of 10, I'm gonna say 8.5, and in terms of Rotten Tomatoes, I'll say 86%. And in my rating, I'll give it an 8.8.
8.8 for Dylan. So the Rotten Tomatoes score consensus here, the average rating, this is based on 6 ratings, is an 8.2 out of 10, and it is 100% fresh right now on the Rotten Tomatoes.
I was close with the number, not so much a tomato, but a good kind of wrong, people.
So you went 8.8. I am very close to that. I'm going to give this a 9-1.
Okay.
I liked the historical aspect that was introduced into this. I loved the horror aspect of it. I think the story building was fantastic, and it was kind of like a soft reset of everything we've come to know. And now it's going to keep us on our toes for the next 2 weeks, trying to figure out what the hell is actually going on and how this show is going to potentially wrap up and see where Moon Knight takes us next. Whether it's it's been so good that it gets a season 2 because this is a limited series, or wherever we see Moon Knight pop up next in the MCU is going to be very exciting. So I'm going to give it a 9-1. Dylan gives it an 8.8, which for the people at home on some quick math tings,
Quick math.
that is an average score of 8.95, which in my book, and the way I was taught math, that rounds up to a 9.0 on the rating scale. So Moon Knight episode 4 in the books. We're going to get into some business side of streaming platforms here, which
Kyle wants me to let it out. Go for it.
we typically have not done, mostly because this news doesn't really pop up that often, so it's not something we can continually talk about. But when it does, I feel like it's very interesting. So when it does, we will talk about this moving forward, and what a perfect way to say hi to YouTube with. But Netflix is losing subscribers.
Who would have thought, you narcs?
They've lost 200,000 subscribers in Q1, which for the business people at home, Q1 is from February to April. And then they expect to lose another 2 million in Q2. It's the first time that Netflix has lost subscribers in over a decade. And according to reports, Netflix is now looking to launch a cheaper ad-supported plans, like multiple ad-supported plans over the next year or two. Dylan and I were talking about this before we started recording. I personally think part of Netflix losing subscribers, even outside of the password sharing fiasco that we've seen over the past couple months, has unfolded. I think Netflix losing subscribers is strictly a big time panorama thing where Netflix wasn't able to film content. We've seen popular shows that they have been pushed back for years now. Look at Ozark, Stranger Things, some of their big, capstone projects that they put a lot of resources into have been delayed so much that that's what people come to Netflix for. And, you see some of the quote unquote comfort shows that Netflix has had over the years. They lose Friends, they lose The Office, stuff like that people were using Netflix for, and that was on there. And then I think a lot of the big, superhero heads, when Netflix lost the rights to all the Marvel shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and everything, now they're on Disney Plus, you lost a lot of subscribers from that. It makes a lot of sense from just a content perspective alone why Netflix is losing subscribers, because there hasn't been that much original content that they've put out that Netflix is so well known for. And that's why they jettisoned to the top the way they did, because they were putting out original content that you couldn't see anywhere else, and it was on a streaming platform, so they had more liberties to do different things that cable TV can't do. And now, with just so much of a backup from the pandemic happening, you're starting to kind of see the effects of that, where people are just tired of waiting, and there's other platforms now where when Netflix first started doing all of this back in, who knows what, 2013, 2014 was a big rise for Netflix. They were the kings of the castle. They were the only ones there. Now you have Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Apple TV. You have Prime Video. Like, that's 7 more that I just rattled off the top of my head.
YouTube TV.
YouTube TV's available. Like, there's
doesn't the PlayStation have TV on it, like PS Network?
I think so. Like, there's Crunchyroll for the anime heads. Like, there's a number of streaming platforms out there that people can go and get their content from, and it's not just exclusive to Netflix now.
Yeah, you pretty much summed up my rant. I don't have to rant that much.
Rant for the people. The YouTubes want to hear you rant.
So, as far as we're concerned, as far as we know, at least publicly, Netflix is the only gosh darn subscription service that is cracking down on password sharing. And I have news for you, Netflix. Everyone password shares. Okay.
I think Hulu does. Hulu is in that same category where like you can't be in a different state.
That's fine. Point is, like, everyone password shares. And I know some companies probably are aware of it. They don't like it, but they know if you put your foot down too hard, you might lose some money. And Netflix, on top of what Kyle said, and I got so flustered with just the idea of what they're doing that I forgot about that. And Kyle was right. I said it a while back too. We were kind of being hopeful, so we kind of. But like Netflix really has taken a drop in content, and it's not exactly its own fault. It's also a saturated market. But at the same time, I have watched a couple of Netflix original movies, and they've sucked. And that's not their fault. I mean, it was their fault, but it's not. But like, if I want to watch a movie now on a streaming service, I'm just gonna go to HBO Max because it gets triple tier, like top tier movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just rewatched The Batman. That's the quality of movie that you often get.
For the people out there, the Batman official streamer season review will come next week.
Gotcha. But on top of the password sharing, why choose now to crack down of all times when there's so many gosh darn new things to watch in different services? Like Paramount is brand spanking new, and it just got the gosh darn Halo series. Okay, Kyle didn't even say Amazon. Did you say Amazon?
Yeah, Prime Video's out there that has
Okay, well, Prime Video's getting fucking Game of Thrones.
And we've said this a number of times too on this show, like months ago. Prime Video is like one of those like hidden gem streaming platforms where like they put out banger after banger after banger, and doesn't really get like the publicity that like a Netflix puts into. Like they don't put like the dollars in advertising, but when you stumble upon it and word of mouth gets going, like the very first episode of StreamerSZN is a Prime Video property when we did Hunters. So like there's hidden gems on Prime Video that not a lot of people know about.
And there's stuff on there you can find. You can find like a movie to rent for like $2-3 on Prime Video. So if you search and can't find it on Netflix, on Amazon Prime for free, or like Hulu, you might have to rent it. So it's better renting it off of a website that you trust for a couple dollars, for 24 hours. I've done that once or twice for a movie. I think I was trying to watch like This Is the End, that movie with all the comedians, and it wasn't on Netflix, and it wasn't on HBO, and it wasn't on. I checked like 4 of them, I couldn't find it, and I was like, screw it, and I rented it for like $2. So Amazon comes in clutch in that market as well, because the other ones you can't really do that. The only other way you rent a movie is if you go back in time and go to Blockbuster, or if you go on cable, and not everyone has cable these days. I just don't understand the password sharing. Like, I get it, like from an evil corporate perspective, you want to get more revenue, right? And they probably had numbers showing they were losing revenue, and I understand that, but I just don't understand from the flip side to crack down on that, essentially do like just like some hard policing, turning it to narcs, and then roll out a cheaper ad version. And I was explaining to Kyle, who recently just got Hulu.
Yes, and I have a Hulu story already, and I haven't even logged on to the account.
And that will be a segue. I'm purposely setting them up for success right now, and that was going to be my ending. So Hulu, most people who had Hulu at one point probably had Hulu with ads. And if you had Hulu with ads, Kyle will soon learn, so he can laugh at his own expense shortly. Hulu with ads is terrible. My brother and I tried watching Rick and Morty, and we tried watching one anime, and tried watching a movie. And I shit you not, for the anime and the Rick and Morty, there were 2, 3, 4 ads per episode. And mind you, Rick and Morty anime episodes are like 24, 23 minutes. And during the movie, there was like 5 ads, which is still terrible.
Yeah, if you're watching Rick and Morty on like Adult Swim, there's maybe like 2 commercial breaks.
That's what I'm saying. And watching a movie, there's about 5 to 10 on the cable, depending upon what cable. But like, still, I'm watching it from the comfort of a service that you pay money for. I mean, I was sharing the password. But like, still, 5 ads is like, like
that's egregious.
So hopefully it's gotten better. I don't use Hulu as much. My point is, I'm apprehensive with Netflix's ad option because they're going to control how often you see an ad. It'll be their algorithm. For all you know, they can. Sorry, to cut you off.
No.
They They can set it to that where, like, maybe if you used to be a member and didn't password share, but then downgraded, maybe they have it set to you get more ads or less ads. But if they find out that you and I are password sharers and we want to downgrade because screw Netflix, but we still want it, they may, you know what I mean? They may find a way to algorithm and have us have like twice as many ads to say F you.
Luckily, my Netflix is through my cable, so it's free.
There you go.
So that's fantastic. I'm looking at Netflix right now, and I find it very interesting. Like, I'm on the like coming soon page. There is something that is very intriguing. It's like a documentary type thing. It's called Conversations with a Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. That's going to be fascinating, in my opinion. But like, they're rolling out like the Fairly Odd Parents on Netflix, which is cool for like our generation to watch the old school Fairly Odd Parents. But like, Netflix was the place where like everyone came for the original content, whether it was Stranger Things, you roll out stuff like Ozark, Bridgerton, things like that, where like, yes, Bridgerton's getting new episodes soon, but like, give us the more original Netflix content and not just recycled stuff. Like, it's fun to have the recycled stuff on Netflix if you need it, but I feel like Netflix has gone so far away from producing the original content for some reason, and that's what made them popular. Give us more of that, and you'll see your subscribers shoot up through the roof. Now, me personally, I think Netflix will gain subscribers this summer when Ozark Volume 2 comes out, when Stranger Things Volume 1 and 2 come out for Season 4, and big-time productions like that. You'll see people subscribing again to Netflix.
Does it dip back down when those are like have been out?
Yes.
Exactly.
But I think Netflix will start to see a surge once they get back to producing original content, and that's what they need to really just grab by the horns and really just like assert themselves into full blown, because if you're not producing original stuff, that's what people go to these streaming platforms for. They want to see the original content and stuff that you can't get anywhere else.
And that's why as of 420, Dylan's favorite streaming service, because it offers both streaming and movies, is HBO Max. Because I can get so many TV shows that are critically acclaimed to their HBO properties made by HBO, original content, on the app. And guess what? They also now have all the DC stuff, so I can watch like certain DC things, like the animated stuff, or not animated, even though I wouldn't torture myself. Point is, like, they have everything that you could want. Like, there's so many freaking movies that are critically acclaimed on HBO Max, or at least have good scores in Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb. It's outstanding. Netflix or any of the other ones, it's hard pressed to find that much original content that holds its own value. Like, Netflix just had a movie, I didn't even watch it. It was called like The Bubble. It has like a 4.1.
Oh yeah, it's like Judd Apatow. Like, it's literally about like the pandemic. Like, nobody wants to watch that.
It tanked hard.
Yeah, and speaking of HBO Max, we will be watching We Own This City with our guy John Bernthal. Not an ad, but we're just excited for it.
Once again, further proving my point of why that streaming service is
starts next week. So if we want to do a breakdown for that, we certainly can. That starts on April 25th. I have a Hulu story, which you will laugh at for everybody that knows Mom Dukes, CFO Margie. She signed my sister Sarah up for Hulu for Easter because that was the one streaming platform we did not have. So now we have all the streaming platform Infinity Stones. So she was signing up, and it asks for like a profile name. Yeah. So my mom, not really thinking that it's like for my sister, and this is for like the main account. She signs up as herself, as CFO Margie, and puts in all of her information. So it has her birth date. So, of course, we all know how algorithms work. Hulu is going to cater the main Hulu account, productions and shows and movies and stuff for somebody born in 1961 rather than my sister who was born in 1996. So I was like, just go to the settings and change the birthday or whatever. Because typically you can do that. It'll ask you, you can only do this a certain amount of times. Are you sure you want to change it? Yes. I kid you not. I was baffled by this. You could change the birthday month and day, but the year was locked.
Can you do that on the website maybe?
No, we were on the website. So you couldn't change the year for the main account that you make once it's made. But you can change the month and the day. And I was cackling. It was so funny. Sarah was on the phone on speaker laughing her ass off. We were all just dying laughing because it was like, what the heck? We can't change this. So my sister has to have the secondary account now. My mom's got the main one.
That's hilarious. Well, your mom's enough for it. So that's great, though.
It was hilarious. But with that, I think it is time to get to everybody's favorite segment with a new intro for the people, Dylan, since we're on the tubes.
Yes, sir.
That's right, it's the streaming platform Multiverse News and Notes powered by the homies over at Pickup. You guys can go to playpickup.com now, start playing the hottest headlines in sports, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we can do it for these pop culture and streaming platform things and do predictions on, is this character going to show up and that type of deal. But go to playpickup.com, start building your fan profiles by playing props on the hottest headlines in sports. Dylan, first things first, there was a Moon Knight Easter egg confirmed from last week's episode. The younger assassin that we saw who kind of cut his scarf and yelled praise Amit as he fell to his doom. The back of his denim jacket, it was confirmed by the Moon Knight crew that was a Pharaoh Rama-Tut Easter egg, a.k.a. Kang the Conqueror.
You gotta love Easter eggs.
You gotta be excited about the Easter eggs, and especially when it involves Kang the Conqueror, it just continues to show that Jonathan Majors is going to be a mainstay in this phase and moving forward in the MCU with that character, which everybody should be excited about as Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania gets closer, because that's going to be the big-time showdown with Kang the Conqueror. Got a lot of Star Wars news this week, which makes Dylan very excited. Hayden Christensen preparing for his role in Obi-Wan Kenobi. He prepared by watching the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels.
I love it.
There's a quote. This is from Entertainment Weekly. Quote, "They did a lot with these characters in those shows. It was great fun getting to go back and re-immerse yourself in this world that just continues to grow and become more and more vast." Welcome back, Hayden Christensen.
What a way to prepare yourself. I absolutely love it.
Love that. There's a new Star Wars game in development at Skydance Media. It is reportedly a revival of Project Ragtag. I know you're a big Star Wars game guy, but I don't know what that is. But I mean, I think the more and more we dive into the Disney Plus universes of Star Wars, it seems like the video games are getting more interconnected, so that's something to keep an eye on, in my opinion.
It is. I'm excited to see where that goes. I did see that they're making a new game. I honestly didn't see what it's about, and like you said, I was gonna wait for more gameplay trailers and then go from there.
Moving to the next thing I saw here.
The Sixers game is tied right now.
Oh, let's go. That's beautiful. So this one's more unfortunate. Ezra Miller.
Forget about it. Get out of here. He's the dude with the Stunod.
He's a big-time Stunod, and this makes Peacemaker that much more hilarious of a show. Because Dylan, remember when Peacemaker was in the classroom for a career day, there was the one student who said, "Have you ever met the Flash?" And Peacemaker says, "Yeah, I met the Flash. Like everybody else who's ever met him, I thought he was an unbearable D-bag."
It's a pretentious douche, right? Is that who said something like that?
He's an unbearable douchebag. He just can't control himself, and it's unfortunate. Just continues to get arrested, and we have some new release dates for Sony projects, Dylan. Unfortunately, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is being moved from October 2022 to June 2nd, 2023. Madam Web will now come out July 7th, 2023. And Across the Spider-Verse Part 2 will now release March 29th, 2024.
Forget about it.
Gotta love these Sony pushbacks. all the time. All
Yeah,
the
it's
time
almost
with the
like
Sony
Sony can't make a
pushbacks.
good superhero movie.
Except for Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm just saying, like a lot of their solo ones have been less than desired recently.
The Batman officially now on HBO Max. Dylan, you
Hell
rewatched
yeah,
it. How was
I
the
did
how
already
was the
watch.
rewatch on the TV as opposed to the
It was
theater?
great. I watched it with the parents. They didn't even ask any questions, dude. It was great. People who watch movies with their parents, you probably know, and your parents are probably guilty. And if you're a parent listening, you know you're guilty of doing this. You ask your children who are younger than you and are like, what's going on sometimes, and it's great. You want to be involved, but it gets annoying. And guess what? Not a single question for like an hour and 45 minutes. They learned. It was amazing. My dad
Uh,
actually asked the first question. Tyler and I did not expect that.
Interesting.
We thought my mom was going to be the one to crack first. My dad was the first one. We made sure he was made fun of promptly. But no, it was good. Definitely say if you watch it from home, just make sure. I would still do like a dim lit room
Yeah,
for
100%.
the dark. But it looks great on the HDTV.
Sweet. Yeah, our official Batman review will come on next week's episode. More Star Wars news. Bryce Dallas Howard, according to Romper, says fans of the Clone Wars will be greatly awarded with the Ahsoka series, which has me giddy because you guys know, if you're longtime listeners of the pod, after The Mandalorian Season 2 ended, I went on a long watch spree of every season of the Clone Wars, and it is one of the best shows I've ever watched. So I'm very excited to see how things play out there, and it just makes me think we're going to see Hayden Christensen even more in the Star Wars universe. And speaking of Star Wars, the inspiration for Star Wars, Dylan, Josh Brolin says Dune Part 2 starts filming in July.
I still didn't watch the first one.
You will like it. It was very, very good. I'm a big fan of Dune, and I think it's going to be something that just continues to shine as they do more with it. Disney will submit Loki for Outstanding Drama Series at the Emmys, and Moon Knight and Hawkeye will be submitted to the limited series categories. If Loki doesn't win, that's just pure robbery. One of the best shows we've seen this past year.
Yes, sir.
We also finally saw Scrat get the acorn.
Dude, our boy.
Our boy. They made this shot. It was made as a farewell to Blue Sky Studios, which, when Disney purchased them, effectively shut them down, and now will produce the Ice Age things on their own. But Scrat finally got the acorn, ate that thing real quick, and what a run Ice Age had with Blue Sky Studios.
Dude, it's almost sad seeing him get the acorn, but at the same time, it's like part of your childhood, so it was cool seeing him do that. It was weird though. It's like it's kind of also for Kyle and I. It was like holy crap, we're getting old. Like
Holy squirrel!
oh my gosh.
Did you see that Greta Gerwig is doing a Barbie movie?
No, I did not see
The
that.
cast is crazy. So buckle in. This is like, in terms of just like star power.
Are we gonna end on Barbie movie news?
So we got Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Will Ferrell.
I'm guessing Ryan Gosling's Ken.
I would assume so. Will Ferrell, Kate McKinnon, Simu Liu,
Oh wow,
Emma Mackey,
wow.
Alexandra Shipp, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, and Michael Cera.
Oh, Michael Cera pisses me off. Michael Cera makes me mad. I think my favorite movie of his is This Is the End because he dies in it.
He's great in The Social Network.
It just bothers me, dude.
We also got the Thor Love and Thunder trailer, which has done numbies. 2.9 million views in the first 24 hours.
Yep. They do a good job. Kyle and I talked about it off camera. Not much to talk about, honestly, because they don't show much.
It's a good first trailer, I'd say.
Thor's going to contemplate retirement. Kyle and I made this joke off camera. We know Christian Bale is the bad guy. And Kyle, what is the bad guy's surname? What's his title?
The God Butcher.
Ah, yes. And if you go watch the trailer, if you haven't already, I'll give you a second to stop listening. It's not really a spoiler. Okay, you get introduced. Greek gods are part of Marvel, and we get introduced to Zeus. Now, Kyle, if you were to put two and two together, what is the likelihood? You could say, what is the prop pickup bet on Zeus making it through the movie?
Very low.
Yes, I go with -500, please.
Also, this is very cool. Parallels with a lot of our favorite things. So Thor Love and Thunder is the first MCU film to use the volume camera. It's the same LED background technology that was used on the Batman and the Mandalorian.
That's awesome.
So we're going to see, and we kind of saw glimpses of it in the trailer. I thought the trailer, like the still shots you kind of get when you look at the Thor Love and Thunder trailer are just gorgeous. And now seeing the camera they used and seeing kind of parallels with the Batman and the Mandalorian, that has me really giddy for just the cinematography of Thor Love and Thunder.
Marvel, use more practical effects. The Batman did practical effects, and it did amazing. Kyle and I differ a little bit on the movie in terms of overall opinion, but I know for 112%, Kyle, if I ask you your opinion on how the movie looked visually, you're going to
amazing.
Agree. Exactly.
100% amazing. Moon Knight and Mr. Knight are now available to play as in Fortnite.
We can't end on that. Do you have any more news? I cannot end on Fortnite news. Come on.
This one's kind of sad. This is an all-timer. Dylan, the movie The Town is leaving Netflix on April 30th.
Oh, really?
And I have a list here of other things leaving Netflix and new arrivals for April for the people, which I feel like we should also be doing more of this to keep people in the loop of things coming and going on all the streaming platforms. So
yeah,
we've got I don't know if you saw the official trailer for it. Russian Doll Season 2 coming to Netflix very, very soon. Actually today, as we record this on April 20th, all new episodes of Russian Doll Season 2 are now available. I've heard great things about that show, something I will definitely be sitting down to watch. Ozark Season 4 Volume 2, which I believe is the final portion of Ozark, if I'm not mistaken, comes out April 29th, so next week. And then as we move forward here on the calendar, as we are recording this on April 20th, trying to see anything good here that people might be interested in. We've got a Netflix comedy on April 26th, David Spade, Nothing Personal. April 27th, we've got Bullshit, the Game Show, coming to Netflix. The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe, The Unheard Tapes, a Netflix documentary coming out on April 27th. Let's see here. Like we said, Ozark obviously coming through, and then leaving Netflix over the next couple of days. We've got leaving April 24th, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. The Artist leaves on April 25th.
Not King Arthur, no!
August Osage County leaves on April 26th. El Señor de los Cielos, seasons 1 through 7, leaves on April 29th. And then leaving on April 30th, a big one, Dawson's Creek, seasons 1 through 6. Dear John, First Night, Moneyball, Snakes on a Plane, Snatch, Stripes, Superman Returns, The Shawshank Redemption, and The Town.
Damn. Sorry, I'm multitasking. I'm watching this.
A lot of stuff leaving there. And then we also got a recommendation in the DMs, which, Dylan, the people can do this. They can DM us. They can leave it in the podcast.
I was going to say, so Kyle, I'll bring it up now. So someone did it, but please leave reviews and let us know what you want us to watch. We will gladly watch whatever you leave for us. Leave it via DM, comment, review, etc. Now, comments on YouTube.
Yes, comments on YouTube. Leave recommendations there. Like, we would love if our YouTube comment section on StreamerSZN episodes is a whole cesspool of show and movie recommendations on streaming platforms. But Dylan, we got this from listener of the program, Strebin, at Strebin1 on the Twitter. He DM'd us on Friday last week and said, you guys have to watch Killing It on Peacock, which we haven't done any Peacock content on the show yet.
Cool. I don't think I've even logged on Peacock yet.
His definition of the show in this DM was, it's funny as fuck.
That's awesome.
Starring Craig Robinson, so that's awesome. He said you guys are going to love it. So shout out to Streben for the show recommendation. We'll definitely be checking that out as the weeks go by. But like we said, next week we've got Moon Knight episode 5. We'll be doing our breakdown there. We will have our official podcast review of The Batman. For the people at home who don't know, Dylan and I, when there's movies and shows, we do a full-blown breakdown and analysis of them, rate them, and we keep a running record of all of our ratings and stuff for the people at home. So we will let you know if The Batman is certified streamable or not on HBO Max now, which, if you don't know, it is. We'll just give you our official scores.
We're up by 1, by the way, in overtime.
Let's go. Come on. And then, obviously, next week we will have the first episode of We Own This City on HBO Max as well, which I am going to be tuning in. Like, John Bernthal's our guy. He's one of our guys.
Did you see his? Did you ever watch that thing I told you to watch about him talking? I think he was opening up on Hot Ones.
I still got to watch that. Yeah.
He didn't get casted early on because I think he said he went to like 10 auditions in a row or something, and he got turned away because he has a big nose and big ears.
Wow.
And like he was describing it, and it was very sad because he was basically making it sound and seem, which is true. He was talking about how like it was very discouraging because like he said the casting directors gave him the impression of like, why would you dare waltz in here with those big ass Dumbo ears and nose?
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
For him to like pseudo blow up finally is pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to our guy John Bernthal. So we'll be watching We Own This City for the podcast. The Batman official review coming next week. Moon Knight episode 5 breakdown. And, of course, any news and notes that come through. And please, please, please leave those recommendations of shows and movies that you want Dylan and I to watch. We will add them to our list as it continues to grow. The last 2 weeks we've had recommendations, which is very, very cool. So keep those things cooking. Obviously, follow us on the socials to keep up to date with everything we're doing. We are also looking for interns for Streamer Season. So if you or somebody you know is into the pop culture, TV, and movie world and is looking for an internship this summer, please hit us up. You can email us at undergroundsportsphi@gmail.com or slide in our DMs, and we'll get things situated and figure some things out for you. Obviously, follow us at StreamerSZN on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Dylan on Twitter at Dylan Mazzola. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews, as Dylan always says, with recommendations of shows and movies to watch. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Thumbs up. Click the bell notification so you know when new videos go live. Comment your shows and movies you want us to watch. Comment about Moon Knight, all that good stuff in the comment section on YouTube, and smash that like button, obviously. And, of course, big thank you to our sponsors, Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. Go to tomahawkshades.com, use promo code USP for 25% off at checkout. Kenwood Beer, Dylan's favorite beverage of choice when he's watching his favorite shows and movies. Go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And the homies over at Bino Board. Go to binoboard.com. That's BINHOBOARD.com. And use our code BINOUSP for 10% off your order at binoboard.com. This has been episode 72 of Streamer Season, the exclusive TV and movie podcast for streaming platforms on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Dylan, I'm KB. And until next week, we are getting the heck out of here, and we're going to go look for some tombs of ancient Egyptian peeps and use the moon to do so. So we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.